Hello, everybody. So today I want to talk briefly about Tesla and Enphase and the great news that we got a few days ago with the cybertruck. And I don't want to talk about the cybertruck because everybody's talking about that. But what I want to talk about is bidirectional charging. We have recordings of Musk many years back saying that he doesn't believe in it. And clearly he's a great CEO because he's changed his mind. And, when exposed to the facts, he's changed his mind and he's introduced bidirectional charging for the Cybertruck with very strong confidence. I am saying and reading that every single Tesla car will also have bidirectional charging in future iterations. And so this is, to me, the most consequential announcement of a Cybertruck, which is the fact that Tesla, 57% of the US market share, is getting behind bidirectional charging. And you can read here, power your site, you can power your tools, of course, but you can also, during a grid outage, provide 11.5 kilowatt hours of power directly to your home. To help keep the lights on. And what do we know about this? I mean, this is still a new product, right? Very few, as of this video, from what I read, only 300 Cybertrucks have been delivered. So new product. But how is this going to work, right? The bidirectional charging. So right now, Tesla is communicating that you're going to need the wall connector and the Tesla gateway. So you do not need a Powerwall, even though most people who get a wall gateway, will have a Powerwall, but you don't necessarily need a Powerwall. And I spent quite a bit of time researching this. The gateway is this, and they cost about $1,800. That's the gateway right there, and of course, the Tesla charger is about $450. So essentially, this is what it would look like. You would need this much equipment in order to be able to power your home with your Cybertruck. And this is in line with what Enphase charges, for its charger and what it charges for its own gateway. Well, I guess the Enphase gateway is closer to $1,000, but this is roughly in line. Maybe Tesla is about 30% more expensive if you want that feature. This is a big deal. This is a big deal for Tesla. And this is a big deal because it's going to help Tesla sell way more Powerwalls and way more gateways. And I anticipate even having a market for gateways because, quite frankly, your car can become a Powerwall. It can become a Powerwall. And if you're out of the home, maybe you need a little power for your fridge, etc., etc. But there's a lot of third-party battery backups, and a key question of these is the compatibility. Are they going to be compatible? I think this is also very important for Tesla because all of a sudden you're not just buying a car, you're buying both a money-making asset, as I'll show in a second, and you're buying a bank. You're buying an energy savings bank. You're buying both energy savings bank and a money-making asset. So why am I saying that you're buying an energy bank, an energy storage tank? Well, to the best of my deduction of the battery pack size of the Cybertruck, rumor has it's about 146 kilowatt hour of capacity for the battery pack in that Cybertruck in the standard version, and the range extended version of a Cybertruck should be about 200 kilowatt hours. So if you translate this in the number of Powerwalls, the latest Powerwall right now, Powerwall 2, Powerwall 3 is not released yet, Powerwall 2, if you translate this battery size in Powerwall, that's anywhere between 11 Powerwalls and 15 Powerwalls if you get the extended range version of a Cybertruck. So between 11 and 15 Powerwalls is what you're buying while buying your car. But keep in mind, the Powerwall is almost $10,000, right? So what does that mean? That means that you are actually doing kind of a double duty or a double investment. You're investing in a whole bunch of Powerwall when you buy your truck, and you're investing in a car as well. So your battery becomes also a transportation device, or your transportation device becomes a battery. It becomes dual use, and this is so mind-boggling. This is so exponential for a company like Tesla to think like this. And keep in mind, the third element that I want to cover in another video is, of course, the onboard computer and the ability to rent compute in a decentralized manner. So all of a sudden, you're not buying just a car, you're buying a transportation device, you're buying an energy storage device, an energy bank, a giant one, 11 Powerwall sized energy bank, and you're buying a computer processing device, so a compute device. So there's a lot of exponentiality in Tesla. I think this is very exciting for Tesla, that Tesla is giving the opportunity of the owner of their cars to use these cars as a way to back up their home. Rest in peace, Generac. Seriously, like this is the end of old, bulky, loud, gas-powered systems. This is the end of that. Anyways, you just need one Powerwall when the car is parked, or you need the gateway, and this goes towards the vision of Enphase and Tesla. That's why Enphase and Tesla they are revolutionizing energy from different angles, right? But they have a similar holistic vision, because in the future, most homes, in my view, will have their own mini grid. And of course, if Tesla can get its act together with actually setting up solar panels, Tesla could be a more holistic competitor to Enphase. Now, Tesla is mostly a competitor in the energy backup space because they have a premium product, which is the Powerwall, but they're not doing very well with the setup of solar roofs. They're not winning. Enphase is winning in the setting up of solar roof. So that's one point. Another point is that because your home is a mini grid, what happens when you have a mini grid is you have different features. So you can see, this is a screenshot of the Tesla app where you can see in real time the energy that you're using, the energy flow. So for example, this is an example of someone using 38% solar, 33% grid, 29% Powerwall, and you can see how the energy is distributed through the home. And of course, as soon as this is introduced, you're going to have another line here, which is going to be vehicle to your house, vehicle to your grid, right? That's going to be your vehicle. And so your home is becoming a total energy system. It's becoming a mini utility. And I want you to pay attention to the virtual power plant here, which is absolutely the future. It's absolutely amazing. What is a virtual power plant? That's when it allows you to feed electricity back to the grid for money. This is a screenshot of by the way, this setup is live in Texas, live in California, live in quite a bit of countries around the world actually, but this is an example of an event where you can just decide to discharge power and participate around with 25 over 100 homes. You can decide to discharge your Powerwall and make money when you discharge it. And you can, of course, pre-tell the app or pre-program the app to tell it, hey, sell excess power whenever the grid pays me this much money for my excess power, or sell it all the time, or make sure that I always have 50% battery left in my Powerwall, except the battery in the Powerwall, as we saw, is not going to be that big. If the truck is 11 times more power than your Powerwall, most of your energy is going to be stored in your car. This is also happening in Texas. Tesla Powerwall users can sell excess power to the Texas grid. So let's do the math a little bit using some real data. So we know that in September of last year in California, they were paying $2.60 per kilowatt hour of excess energy in September. That was the surge pricing. So how would that work in surge pricing? And of course, you would want to take this advantage of these opportunities whenever there's a surge pricing. That's when you want to take advantage of these opportunities. So how would that work? Let's say you get a surge pricing and you have your car, of course, who's parked at home, and you're connected in your vehicle, on your charger, on your bidirectional charger. You're connected to it, and your whole system is connected to it. So what happens is maybe you get a pop-up on your phone. You get an alert on your phone, and you're like, hey, do you want to sell some energy? And you could click a button and say, yeah, I want to discharge 80% of my cybertruck's energy into the grid, right? So taking that, so 80% of the Cybertruck, that's 117 kilowatt hours that you want to discharge to the grid at $2.60 per kilowatt hour. So that would be $304. So just for discharging your Cybertruck in that scenario, which is the real money that they paid in September in California, in that scenario, you would have made $300, right? We can see how this is becoming so much more compelling, because what if you have 20 days a year like this, or 30 days a year like this? I mean, this is some powerful economics. This is some powerful stuff. When you go buy these cars, remember this version of a truck is a $79,000 version. We're talking about a version at $60,000. It's like I hear a lot of people complaining that the price is high. Well, first of all, it's not high compared to a lot of gas trucks. It's entirely in line. But when you start taking into consideration that you have these money-making synergies going on, I think we're going to get into some very interesting economics with these cars. And I'll get to this at the end of the video. Anyways, how about Enphase in all of this? Enphase is going all in on that same idea. They have the same idea for virtual grids. They have the same idea for reselling the power to the grid. They have a similar ecosystem with a similar app. This is their competitor to the battery pack, right? This is their bidirectional charging, and this is their solar. And if you were to compare Enphase and Tesla, for the energy division of the business, you could say that Tesla is winning the battery pack space. There's no doubt. The Powerwall is a status symbol. They're winning the chargers. There's no doubt either. In a country, the US, where 57% of cars that are electric are Teslas. It's actually much more than that. 57% of cars sold this year are Tesla, right? You order your Tesla, you order a Tesla charger. So they are leading there too. But Tesla is totally not leading in solar. Who's the leader in solar in the US? Enphase, by a long shot. So these companies are kind of the yin to each other's yang, if that makes some sense. It's like Enphase is the winner at solar, and Tesla is the winner at batteries. That's why I'm hoping for compatibility between these different players. Here's one grand question for Enphase and Tesla and how they work together and how the benefits are going to be spread out of this new tech. So first question is, will Enphase users be able to use Enphase's bidirectional chargers with Teslas? Will they be able to do that? Right now, I'm saying maybe. I want to say likely. Highly likely. We know time and time again that Musk is not into rent seeking. He's got no problem in sharing the patents. He's got no problem sharing the chargers, right? The Tesla Tesla chargers, they sold it to BP for gas stations, and he opened the Tesla chargers to every other car brands. So I think that won't be a problem to be able to use the Enphase system. Now, will that be next year or 2 years from now or 3 years from now? Well, if you have a short-term horizon, probably not going to work as soon as you get the truck, right? You're probably going to go through quite a few iterations of updates. Of course, Enphase needs to release their own product too. This is a whole situation that is in flux. We're not there yet. Another question is, if you were to assume that there's not going to be an option for an Enphase bidirectional charger, if you were to assume that, you also need to know that Enphase and Tesla actually work together. The worst case scenario in that case would be a mix and match. And sure enough, we have a lot of solar installers out there. It's very common in places like Australia that mix and match a solar design with a battery. And the battery could be Tesla, the battery could be Franklin, but the solar design could be Enphase or Solar Edge. So it doesn't have to always be the same brand. And then it's up to the installer to figure out how the systems can communicate together. But I just want to, put out there a few things to watch for. So what would be some of the things to watch for? Well, first of all, it would really help Enphase if legacy automakers actually released more EVs. Because, of course, the more Teslas there are, the more people are going to be compelled to buy the Tesla product. Now, Tesla is 40% of my portfolio. It's a much bigger position for me than Enphase. So I guess it's okay. That wouldn't hurt the portfolio. But it's like, what is going on, legacy? They've delayed their cars, right? GM has delayed by 1 year. I mean, where is Legacy Auto? When are they coming to this marketplace, right? I mean, it's a little shocking, quite frankly. I don't know where they are, and of course, for Enphase, if Tesla got just under 50% market share, it would actually help Enphase. It doesn't seem to be the case because this Barron's article that I just looked up before this video, I like to update my market share numbers. So so the market share right now, year to date, right? So up until Q3, Barron's reports it's at 57%. But the main reason why it's 57% is, guess what? It's because in end of Q2, beginning of Q3, Tesla did a bunch of factory upgrades and thus didn't sell as many cars. So essentially, they're going to catch up. So essentially, the market share could jump back towards the mid 60% again at the end of Q4. Q4 typically being the strongest year for the sale of electric cars. So this 57%, this whopping 57%, this outstanding number may actually be a very low number for Tesla as the sales in Q4 pick back up, and as we know, Q3 and Q2 was purportedly lower sales because they had the factories shut down. So this is something to figure out. Oh, and in Europe, you have greater penetration of Chinese EVs, right? Rover is a China. I can't remember which Chinese one it is, but you see these small Rovers everywhere in Europe, and that's actually a Chinese partnership. It's a Chinese EV under the hood, even though it's a British brand. So, and there's more brands coming to Europe. So Europe seems to have, and that's because Tesla hasn't released Model 2 yet. So of course, Model 3 still looks pretty big in Europe. So you still have, I think, it's a compelling sell. It's a more compelling sell for Enphase in Europe because so many people in Europe are going to have electric vehicles that are adapted to Europe and that may therefore not be Teslas. And anyways, Enphase and SolarEdge, they both have a better solution for solar than Tesla in my view. And by better, I mean more successful in the marketplace. I think in general, all of these brands, they need to work on compatibility. And this is what we're seeing, right? If you've been following the NCIS charging standard in the US and all of the automakers adopting it, that's an example of a young industry merging onto standards. And once the standards are there, these products will communicate. But there's still some work to do around this, right? This is an emergent industry. And I wanted to make some broader comments. What does this all mean for 2030? And beyond? What does this all mean? Well, I've made a full video about virtual grids and the future of energy and how relevant this is. But what does it mean? Well, first of all, virtual grids, in my view, will be a revolution, right? It will be neighbors selling electricity to neighbors. And that's going to be enabled, in my view, again, because most homes are going to have an oversized solar roof because it just makes sense. Each roof has enough space to produce between 7 and 9 times as much energy as the home uses. So oversized solar roofs, in my view, are the future because all of a sudden you're not producing energy just for your own home use, right? You don't just go and look at the electric bill and say, oh, I want to cover my electric bill and get the smallest system ever. No, this is looking more and more like, well, I want to produce electricity for my transportation, for all of my cars. What if my household has 3 cars, right? So you need to have a much bigger roof. And then when you start thinking about the money you can make reselling to the grid, you start thinking about resell to the grid in periods of surging electricity. And in turn, you power local industry, you power commerce, and you power the local AI revolution. As energy, just like money, is fungible, right? Energy that you're not pulling into the grid, it doesn't have to be transported halfway across the state. And it can be set up closer to where, say, data centers that use huge amount of money can actually draw on that energy. So that's one of the things that's going to be one of the major revolution. We are an energy-hungry species, and we need way more energy. I told you that citation a few videos ago. The coming wave. We are at $1.5 trillion worth of energy right now being sold and transacted. This is predicted to grow to 4.5 trillion by 2030, and that is only I mean, a lot, sorry, not only, but a lot because of the AI revolution and how hungry these computers are. And it's important to realize that, right? When you start thinking about AI, start thinking about, say, have you ever asked yourself a question, how much of the world's energy does, say, Netflix use? Well, I'll give you a hint. It's a lot. It's a whole lot, and same for a lot of these data centers. So, anyways, that's point B here. Point C for me is the national battery. I have to double down on the national battery. This concept of a national battery to me is insane. So the US has 200 million cars. Imagine if these 200 million cars were all electric. Imagine if you just had 10 million cars were plugged in at all times in their homes, connected to the grid. Then you would have a national battery. And you could have the country track the stored energy within these batteries, right? And you could just live in a world where cars store the energy for the country. And I think this is highly disruptive to think about this in a world where, in the world of oil, we talk about the strategic petroleum reserves, these underground caves in Louisiana filled with petroleum since the 70s that have been emptied and emptied and emptied over again without being refueled. Well, are we going to have something similar, in my view, with a national battery? I maintain that this could be a very, very powerful thing, knowing that batteries decay a bit under 2% a month, and as they get better, they decay less and lose less energy. And lastly, the last thing I want to say is we may see some very odd, strange, interesting, funny economics coming, because remember the math I told you, like this is 11 to 15 Powerwalls, right? And Powerwalls are not 10,000, but pretty close. And if you add the electrician bill and have to pay labor being the most expensive thing, right? That's kind of a big part of the labor cost for having a Powerwall is you have to pay the electrician to set it up, right? And electricians don't come cheap. They cost what, $500 a day, $500 a day, right? That's not too far-fetched. So installing 10 Powerwalls on your wall, a lot of that is going to be the electrician that you have to pay to do that. So anyways, my point is, I think a lot of people are going to see very interesting economics where maybe a household only needs 2 cars, but maybe they're going to get 4 cars because they think about, hey, I can just buy a used car and use it for the battery. So I think we're going to have very, very interesting economics because of this. And I've covered this in other video, especially when I did my solar in 2030 video on Tesla with new energy uses. You have to ask yourself the question, what are we going to do with all of this extra energy? Well, I think there's going to be a lot of revolutions that are going to be powered by that extra energy. The next one to come, in my view, is making your own water at home with these atmospheric water generators. They look like big AC units and they make 200 gallons a day. I think that's going to be one of the next revolution. 2030, past 2030, is it far-fetched to think about a machine that makes food for you? It's not that far-fetched when you look at some of the things that are happening with appliances and the development that they make in appliances and growing in especially greens, mushrooms, etc. It's not that far-fetched to think about what we're going to do with all of that excess energy, and I think we're going to do a lot. We're an energy-hungry species. We need ever more energy, and the fact that now, thanks to bidirectional charging, when you buy a car, you don't just buy transportation, you also buy an energy bank for yourself. And I think that's going to be a revolution. Anyways, this was not investment advice. This was just entertainment. Hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, and have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching.